Happy Tuesday and welcome back to the Locked On Red Sox podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen every single day. This episode is presented by BetOnline. And I am your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider Jake Ignaszewski. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be joined by my co-host, Nesson writer Lauren Campbell. But I was able to be joined today by a very special guest, Tim Neverett, who is the former Red Sox radio broadcaster and is the current TV and radio play-by-play broadcaster for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And this is part one of our conversation with Tim. And in this episode, Tim and I talks a little bit about what it was like for him growing up as a Red Sox fan in Nashville, New Hampshire, and going to Emerson College a few blocks down from Fenway Park, as well as he talks a little bit about the funny story of Joe Castiglione falling out of his chair in Game 4 of the ALCS against the Astros. So let's listen to part one of our conversation with Tim Neverett.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am here with former Red Sox broadcaster on WEEI, the current TV and radio play-by-play announcer for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the author of the new book, COVID Curveball, with Tim Neverett. So how are we doing today, Tim?
Great, Jake. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So how's your offseason been going thus far? Obviously, it's a little bit of a different baseball offseason so far with the lockout and everything, but how's everything been going with you?
Well, we're all waiting on baseball. Right now, it's not just the players who are locked out. Everybody else is in limbo. Normally I'd have a spring training schedule by now. I'd have my regular season schedule by now. And I have other things I'm doing that back up right to spring training. So the lockout has a lot to do with whether I do those or not. So it's tricky. Every day I'm looking for news, but it hasn't been good news. And I'm hopeful that somehow, some way they'll be able to work it out. And they need to do it sooner than later for the benefit of all the people who aren't players. Because there are far more people who work in baseball that don't play, that depend on the season being played on time, depend on spring training, depend on other things. And these are people that all get lost in the wash. So I hope that the union and the ownership can find some middle ground and come up with a deal pretty soon.
Yeah, I really hope so as well. And especially for yourself, somebody who's the broadcaster for the Dodgers, you must be sort of on the edge of your seat, hoping to see if, the Dodgers star ace Clayton Kershaw is going to re-sign or not.
Well, what's going to happen is when the lockout ends, there'll be it'll be like a fire hose being opened up, I think, all around baseball. Would I like to see Clayton Kershaw back here? Sure. But I think it depends on what Clayton Kershaw wants. And chances are he'll come back to the Dodgers. But, there's more to be done than just Clayton Kershaw. I think that they'll look to probably find another starting pitcher somewhere. They might look to get another bat somewhere. But a lot of different things are going to happen in a hurry once the lockout ends. So it's just going to be – it's going to be baseball's version of a free-for-all, I think. Everybody's going to be vying for the same free agents, and I think a lot of them will come off the board pretty quickly.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know about you, but it was pretty exciting leading up to when the lockout first started with all those sort of moves the teams made in the final sort of days, especially the big contract, that the former Dodgers shortstop Corey Seager received. But yeah, I'm so excited for this lockout to be over because I don't think I told you this. We post 3 episodes a week, so it's been a little bit difficult throughout this lockout to come up with content ideas because there's only so much you can really talk about the Red Sox with.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping it's got to end at some point. And at some point you just look at it and say, okay, I don't understand all the all the issues, but it's ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, this is America's pastime. Let's treat it like that. And they're really not. So hopefully it'll end soon and we'll all get back to baseball and talking about stuff on the field, because there's going to be so much stuff to talk about that's on the field. And we're going to see it right away, because probably within between 48 and 72 hours, we'll start seeing players report to the big league camps. The minor leaguers are reporting now.
Yeah.
They're going to have regular camp, and they're going to have their regular schedules for minor league games and so on and so forth. But as far as the guys in the 40-man roster and those guys in the 40-man roster who won't make the big league club, those guys are in limbo. And believe it or not, there are more players in Major League Baseball that need the checks than you'd think. Right. So there's a lot of players that are, have been like 4A guys, have been sent up and down between AAA and the major leagues a lot in the last year or two. Those guys are not necessarily independently wealthy like the Max Scherzers of the world, who are being some of the louder voices on this. We're just going to continue to say no. You hear all the highest paid players saying we're just going to continue to say no to the owners no matter what. We're going to stick together. But they're the ones who don't need the checks as much as I would say a good 65% of the players in Major League Baseball who do.
Yeah, I completely agree. We actually had on this Worcester Red Sox player for the AAA team, and I think about him every single time the CBA negotiations come up, because he's going to be on the Rule 5 draft for the Red Sox, and he's about to report for minor league camp, not even knowing if he's going to end up on the Red Sox during this next season. So yeah, it's definitely interesting for those people who like you said, I like how you said that, who are in between AAA and major leagues. I hope you guys are enjoying our conversation so far with Tim Neverett, but Lauren just wants to take a second to talk to you about Built Bar.
You know me by now. You know how much I love Built Bar, and we are in the new year, so that means you have New Year's resolutions probably. And if yours is about getting fit, maybe eating a little bit healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar, and honestly, maybe even better than one. Built Bar makes it easy to stick to your resolution because they taste so good, you will want to eat it. It's not like those other protein bars that can be chalky, waxy, maybe taste kind of like a cardboard. Not Built Bar. And I understand that you want to eat healthy, but it can get so boring. By like week 3, I'm thinking, this just is not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Enter Built Bar, which are covered in 100% real chocolate. And here's an idea for the new year, and I've started to do this. Head on over to all of your secret treat stashes at home, in the pantry. Maybe you have a snack drawer at your desk in your office, wherever. Throw out all the sugary stuff and replace them with Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or a little treat, you could reach for something that's healthy and tastes incredible. And there's so many flavors to choose from. There's literally something for everyone. Coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, my personal favorite, cookies and cream. Check out built.com often to see what's new, because they always have limited time flavors. And we have an offer for you. Head on over to built.com, enter promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
For yourself, you grew up as a Red Sox fan in Nashua, New Hampshire. And so you also went to Emerson College as well, which is a few blocks from Fenway Park. So, growing up as a Red Sox fan, how tough was it, especially before they had this insane success stretch throughout the 2000s? And what were some of your favorite memories at Emerson College, being right near Fenway Park?
Well, for sure, the 1986 Red Sox team, probably my favorite Red Sox team of all time, believe it or not. You might say, well, that's a long time ago. Well, that was when I was a student at Emerson, and I lived 3 blocks from Fenway Park. And they went to the World Series, should have won the World Series, should have beat the Mets. And it was, they were 1 strike away from winning it all, but got to go a lot during the middle 80s to Fenway. But it was different then. I don't know why it was so different, because New England's always had a love affair with the Red Sox. They always have. But you'd go on opening day and it would be packed. It would be sold out crowd. You couldn't move. It was just like every game has been for a long time at Fenway. And then you'd go to the second game of the season, which would be a day game, and it would be the day after opening day, or the 2 days after opening day, because they'd leave that blank day in there for weather, and there'd be hardly anybody there. You could go and sit where you wanted and stretch out, and you can't do that now. You haven't been able to do that at Fenway for a long time.
Right.
We used to get in the bleacher seats as students for $3.
Wow.
But that was anybody. It didn't have to be a student to get in there for $3. Now they have student pricing of like $10, $12 or something like that, which is pretty good. But we would go often as a group, as friends, and go sit in the bleachers and spend $3 on that and get something to eat. And I mean, we're looking at that time, you could go to a Red Sox game for less than $10 or $15.
Wow.
And you just can't, you can't even get in the door for that anymore. So it was a lot of fun, but being around there, being in the neighborhood, being able to go whenever we wanted to go, could be a last minute decision, literally 10 minutes before the first pitch. Hey, you want to go? Yeah, let's go. And we'd get down there. We might miss the first pitch or two, but we would see the game and we would have plenty of room to spread out in the bleachers. So things were different then, but I grew up watching them on television. My dad and I'd watch a lot of baseball on TV the nights that I wasn't playing myself. But it's a great environment. It's one of the better environments you're going to see in baseball, or around Fenway Park. And even today, with what the new ownership group has done, has been really great. How they've marketed the team, how they've done all kinds of different things, the things that they're involved in outside of baseball too. But I do think that going to a Red Sox game is a great experience. People go to Fenway Park to go to Fenway Park. Right. Who knows? Texas Rangers could be in, or some team that you don't get to see very often. But people want to go to see the ballpark. They want to go have the Fenway experience. It doesn't matter who the opponent is on most nights. I think that's the way a lot of New Englanders feel. Is they get a ticket to a Red Sox game, yeah, they're going to go to a game at Fenway, and they're going to see the Red Sox, and who cares who they play?
Yeah, it's the best atmosphere in my opinion, all in all of sports. I mean, even before the game, like when you're just waiting to get in, the whole atmosphere around Fenway is incredible. And I don't know about you, anytime I smell like Italian sausage, the first thing that I think about is sausages. Get your water in sausages. It's cheaper than the park.
Yeah, the guy. They've been doing that there for years, and I mean for decades. And it's fun. It's just a fun city atmosphere. I mean, there are other ballparks that have other great experiences too. They're all different. And that's the great thing about baseball, is that every single park is different. They're all unique in their own way. Fenway, certainly. And I hope they never move it from where it is. I hope they're able to keep it there forever. They've done a great job in renovating it to the point where they can. The other ballpark that's as old as that is Wrigley Field. And while they've tried to renovate it, they still haven't done nearly as good a job as they've done at Fenway. And so Wrigley keeps trying, but, Fenway beats them in that regard. And then the third oldest park is Dodger Stadium, which is simply awesome. It's you think of a ballpark, go into Dodger Stadium, and you realize you're in a well-designed ballpark. They just put $100 million into it a couple of years ago. Then the pandemic hit, and they wanted to renovate some things and add some features to it before the All-Star game. They lost the All-Star game in 2020, but it's coming back this year. Major League Baseball did the right thing and gave it back to the Dodger Stadium for this season coming up. So, for anybody out east who hasn't been to Dodger Stadium, come All-Star time, you'll see plenty of it.
I hope you guys are enjoying our conversation so far with Tim Neverett, but I just want to take a second and talk to you about BetOnline. There might be less football being played, but BetOnline.net has way more stuff to be bet on this playoff season. From scored, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the number one spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. It's not just football. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Yeah, I've unfortunately never had the opportunity to go yet, but anytime I see a Dodgers game, the atmosphere is incredible. I mean, especially with what you saw earlier this season when it was Padres and Dodgers, and literally felt like a playoff atmosphere really early in the season, which was kind of crazy. But before you joined the Red Sox as a broadcaster, you were a play-by-play broadcaster for the Pittsburgh Pirates from 2009 to 2015, and then obviously we saw Don Orsillo move on to be the broadcaster for the San Diego Padres, and then Dave O'Brien became Nesson's new play-by-play broadcaster for TV. But walk us a little bit through how you found out that you were going to be hired for the new Red Sox radio broadcaster, and sort of what your reaction was.
Well, I mean, at that point, it wasn't like someone who was a lifelong Red Sox fan winning the lottery. I'd been around it in spring training. I had seen the Red Sox. I knew people in the organization. This was a situation where I could have stayed in Pittsburgh. I had a unique situation. I could have actually chosen to stay in Pittsburgh or come to Boston, one or the other. It was something where I wanted to be home and closer to my family. My parents were not doing very well, health-wise, and thought it would be the best thing to come home. But Boston does things differently. Different doesn't always mean better. And for people in New England, when that's all they know, they think that's all there is, and it's not. So 3 years was enough for me. Quite frankly, the way that they employ their broadcasters is different. They're not employed through the team, and it's not the best way to do it. It really isn't. There's only a couple places that do it that way for a reason. When I was with Pittsburgh, I was employed by the team, and I really wanted to get back to that type of a situation. And the Dodgers situation was just that. I mean, it's a really good situation. Again, I'm employed by the team. It's much better for somebody who works in this business to be employed by the team. So, it was great being with Boston. We won 3 straight division titles and a World Series. A lot of good memories there, but it wasn't the be all end all. And you'd think, hey, you're a kid from New England who grew up a Red Sox fan, grew up 40 minutes from Fenway, lived 3 blocks from the Green Monster. Are you crazy? And no, when you're around the business a little bit, you kind of learn a lot. You learn a lot about the business. And for me, the business of baseball was better elsewhere than it was in Boston. And that's one of the reasons that, you see a lot of people come and go in that market, because it doesn't fit for a lot of people. Didn't fit for me. I did get asked to sign a contract extension, and I turned them down because the Dodger situation was just so much better. And, I really, I keep close touch with Joe Castiglione and Dave O'Brien. I talk to them fairly regularly. There's other people around there that I've been in contact with too, but it's a good organization. I wish Alex Cora all the best. Alex and I are friends. I hear from him every once in a while. And it's just one of those things where I've had to explain this time and time again. How can you being from New Hampshire, going to school in Boston, getting the Red Sox job? Isn't that the dream? Isn't that where the dream ends? No, it's not where the dream ends. It really isn't. So, it's hard for people who are dyed-in-the-wool Red Sox fans to understand. I don't expect them to understand the broadcasting business and why people make certain decisions. But, I think I made the best decision, and I moved on, and, I'd still keep an eye on what's happening with the Red Sox. But, the Dodgers are my main focus now, and heading into my 4th season with them. I've actually been with the Dodgers longer than I was with the Red Sox, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely understand what you're saying, and especially with how the Boston media can be. I mean, for players, you see it. It can kind of hurt their play on the field, hurt their mental game as well. We saw that with David Price, we saw it with Kyle Crawford, John Lackey a little bit. But before you joined the Red Sox, I read that you had never done a broadcast at Fenway Park. So as somebody who spent so much time at the historic ballpark, what was it sort of like during that first game?
It was really interesting, Jake, because, I'd been around Major League Baseball for a long time at that point and had been involved in interleague games. The only one I did with the Red Sox was in Pittsburgh. They came to Pittsburgh, and just the rotation never came back around to get to Fenway. And it was literally the only ballpark that I had not done a broadcast from. Yeah, and that includes some ballparks that had already been torn down. So I just thought it's the most weird thing. I mean, I used to live hop, skip, and a jump from there. I walked by there all the time. I'd go there all the time to watch games as a college student and whatnot, but never had broadcast a game there until opening day of 2016. And it was neat. It was, I felt like, all right, this is pretty cool. Opening day at Fenway. I'm on the call of the game, sitting next to Joe. It was just kind of one of those, I guess, out of body moments there for a little while. You're like, how did I get here? And then, you start work. I don't know. It was a weird feeling, I think, at the beginning. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be and that sort of thing. And it was where I was supposed to be for 3 years. But it was wonderful at times, and other times it was less than that. But I think for the most part, it was pretty good.
I hope you guys are enjoying our conversation so far with Tim Neverett, but I just want to take a second to talk to you about RockAuto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning like, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? Like, who knows that? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket as well. So definitely check out RockAuto because you save time and money. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Like, for example, for a Honda Odyssey fuel pump, it's $353 from the chain store, but from RockAuto, it's $216. Another reason I would choose RockAuto is it's a family business serving do-it-yourself services for over 20 years. And also, their prices are reliably low for every single customer. So go explore the easy-to-use website today to find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
And I'll always remember my time there, and I'll always remember the good things about it. I'll never forget when Joe fell out of his chair in Houston during the ALCS.
Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, well, it was funny because it was a line drive. I think Bregman hit a line drive to left field, and Andrew Benintendi came in. It was a do-or-die play. And if he doesn't make it, the runner on base scores and ties the game, and we would continue. So do-or-die play for Benintendi. He comes in. Joe's got this, we have these chairs that have wheels on them. And Joe kept leaning forward. I didn't notice because I'm watching the game on the field, but he's at the edge of his seat. And as the ball's hit, the chair slips out from underneath him. He goes down. And his headset's turned on the side and the cord's wrapped around his head. And he says, it's out to Benintendi. And I look out there. I see Andrew catch it. I see where Joe is because I heard him fall. And I just give him a thumbs up. And Joe didn't even see the catch. And he's like, he caught it. That's all, And he went into his call while he's laying on his back on the floor.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I go and help him up. And what was funny was our radio engineer, who was a freelance engineer that we don't always hire on the road, he had his phone out because he wanted to catch the Red Sox reaction, like in between me and Joe,
Right.
On his phone. So we had video rolling, and it was the only video of that incident. And so he sent it to Joe. Joe showed Andrew Benintendi the next day. Benintendi got a big laugh out of it, and no one ever saw the video. Joe buried it after that. So it was fun. It was funny. I was glad he was all right. I was glad he didn't get hurt. But that was just one of those crazy moments in the booth with Joe Castiglione.
I love it. Yeah, but preparing for this, I watched that video over, and it's funny because you can kind of hear him, and then you can hear you like trying to finish it for him, and then it was miraculous how he was still able to, like you said, still make the call even when he's on the ground and having no clue what's actually going on. But
Yeah.
Other than that moment, do you have any other great moments with Joe Castiglione?
Oh, sure. Plenty of them. Joe's great. I mean, most of them were when we were at dinner or on the airplane, the time we spent away from the ballpark. You know, those are the great moments I remember with Joe. Joe's just such a good guy. You know, he's got great stories. When we would go on the road, if there was a restaurant that had a name that ended in a vowel, we were in there. So any Italian restaurant on the road, Joe was welcome. I mean, they would roll the red carpet out for him. I mean, he'd been on that circuit for so long. Like we'd go to Baltimore and we'd land, you know, after a day game or something, we get to Baltimore and he'd lean over to me. He goes, "You want to go to La Scala tonight?" And he goes, "I'll call Nino. He'll leave it open for us." You know, so he'd call the owner would leave the place open for us. And Joe and I, and, you know, maybe Dave O'Brien, maybe, you know, Jerry or Eck would go over too. And we did that a number of times. We, you know, in Detroit, there's a place called Mario's, and he'd text me and he'd say, "Mario's shuttle will be downstairs at 6 p.m. They will drive us."
I love it.
You know, they'd come pick us up to drive to this restaurant that wasn't close to the hotel. But I mean, it was, you know, city after city. That was what it was like being around Joe. You know, I don't think I've ever seen him eat anything other than eggplant Parmesan, but he's just such a fun guy to be around. And great baseball memory, sharp memory, a lot of great relationships he's built over the years. And he's introduced me to a lot of people too that I'm still in contact with. So I've got so many good moments with him, both on and off the air, that you know, we've had a good relationship. Still do.
Thank you so much for listening up to this point. I hope you guys did enjoy part one of our conversation with Tim Neverett. And I want to thank you guys so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Also, make sure to go over and give a follow on Twitter to Locked On Red Sox. That's LO_Red Sox, as well as follow myself on Twitter. It's at Jake Iggy, and also my co-host Lauren Campbell over on Twitter. It's la 3 laws, Lauren with 4 R's. Now, make sure to check in tomorrow for part 2 of our conversation with Tim Neverett. And in part 2, Tim and I discussed a little bit about what it was like for him. Tim and I discussed a little bit of his experiences with Jerry Remy, as well as talk about the influence that Alex Cora has on the Red Sox with his managing style. And Tim talks a little bit about his experiences with Alex Cora during his time with the Red Sox. And then lastly, he talks a little bit about his new book, talking about the Dodgers 2020 season and his experience as a broadcaster during that crazy COVID season called COVID Curveball. Now, you definitely don't want to miss out on that one. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Really appreciate everybody tuning into this episode of Locked On Red Sox. I'll see you guys and talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.